That's right, we are going to go over 4 things Charli XCX taught me about music production. Welcome to the show. This is Whiskey and Synths. My name's Dave. And I tried to avoid the Brat album this summer. It was everywhere, and sometimes that puts me off campaigns like that. But I heard it had electro clash, early 2000s, harsh club music inspirations, and I'm like, that is up my street. So I thought, let's go for it. Do a bit on Charli XCX, researched it, and this is for you. 4 tips I've found from the research, and mainly looking at vocals, themes, vocal production in this one today. It's going to be a podcast style video thing for intermediate or advanced music producers. Hopefully that's you who just enjoy a bit of chat and can take these tips away for your own music making. And if you want more, I've put the links below to the sources where I got all this information from as well. Maybe check that out at the end of the video. So let's get into it. So the big thing on this Brat album is she decided the whole vision and idea for this album quite a bit before they even started writing music. The whole aesthetic, the idea. So the title was decided, aesthetic, and even interestingly, the approach to the music making was decided in 2022 in June before any of the songs were made. Reminds me of St. Vincent, who actually started by thinking of like, how is she going to approach this music making? And she did loads of modular synths on her last album. So I think that's sometimes good. If you're making a whole big project, sometimes setting those boundaries at the start can actually be a good thing, so you don't get paralysis by analysis, like too many options. So she said this immediately helped her know when things were Brat or not Brat. So it means like when you're coming up with loads of ideas, it's sometimes hard to if you come up with loads of loops or ideas for songs, how do you know which one's going to fit on the album? So having this aesthetic and idea planned out in advance, it's Brat or not Brat. So maybe you could come up with your own word or kind of code for your new project, especially if you are working on an EP or an album. This works especially well. Another interesting thing about committing to this aesthetic is she said she's only going to work with people she'd worked with previously well before with, and one-to-one as well, or small group, like the 3 of them in a room, not over Zoom or anything like that, and with very little influence from the outside world. So trying not to look at current trends or anything, and also not even showing stuff to people for opinions until it was done. So they created this insular world to create this whole almost universe in, and it totally worked. It has its own sort of whole feeling to it, not just the album, but the whole campaign and the shows and everything. And even back in the day, Missy Elliott and Timbaland worked this way. They're like, we don't want any outside influence. We want to make our own thing. And obviously influences you've had in your brain and memory from the past might seep in, but current things might not. And hopefully that can lead to making something more original. So I love this, and I thought it was well worth mentioning as the first tip from Charli XCX. The next tip from Charli XCX was on vocal chops. So George, one of the producers who works really closely with her, said he made a demo, but he took actually she'd been on a podcast, and he took like the audio from the podcast and chopped it up and put it into the song, which is really cool, and repitched it in that. And I've never heard that. Now, I know not all of us out there are on podcasts all the time, but I guess you could source your audio from different places. Maybe your mate does, you get permission of someone to, or maybe you could just record yourself reading from like a book or something you've written or something like that, and then totally chop it up and repitch it into a new melody or hook. I think it's a cool idea. I never thought about doing it like that. I have sampled stuff from like archive TV, archive radio, and let it float over the top of a track, but never chopped it up and repitched it. So I did like that. And he said that these vocal chops, this is George, the producer who co-produced it with Charli, said that was super important to him throughout the whole process. All right, before we get on to our third tip, I just wanted to offer you something that's going to help you if you're a music producer with thousands of unfinished tracks, because I know there's at least 1 or 2 on that hard drive that are worth putting out there. Am I right? So I've got this challenge. It's 10 steps, 10 days, and you'll have a finished track, okay? It's going to be only 30 minutes a day, so hopefully That's not much more than what you put in already to your music production, I'm hoping. You got a checklist every day and a clear action point, what you have to do to move to the next day. And it will take you from an 8-bar loop to a self-mastered track. And I've even chucked in a few extra bonus videos and that'll help along the way. So if you want to join the challenge, you just click below, pop in your email, and that'll be subscribed to it. It's just 10 emails, boom, tells you how to do everything like I just described. And if you don't like it, fair enough, just unsubscribe, no hard feelings. But I do think this is really going to help some music producers out there focus down and just get their best music finished, because it's okay to have loads of unfinished tracks. It's really normal, actually. Almost all the artists I've researched for these podcasts have that kind of thing, but you do want your best ones out there, so this will help you do it. Now, it is a free challenge, but there's only 5 spots every week available for free on that challenge. So click below to get your challenge sorted and then come back to the episode and we'll get into the next tip. So this next section is all on creating lyrics for tracks, because Charli XCX, although does a bit of production, bit of writing, but lyrics and voice is her main field and main lane. And she said she can jump on something really quickly even before it's developed properly, and she really likes that. And she said up and coming producers will send us stuff and she's like, no, it's too finished, and she actually likes a really rough demo. She says to people, she'll ask them to turn off parts in a demo, literally mute them, keep it less, and it helps her develop the lyrics and the music at the same time. So they sort of, you might get a musical demo, then start adding lyrics, and then they sort of mesh together better rather than a finished demo and then lyrics sit on top of it. And I thought it was a really cool way of approaching combining lyrics with music, because it's a tricky thing. You want them to match really well. That's a cool thing. Maybe start on your lyrics round about the time as your roughest demo. I think that's a good tip. She also said speed with lyrics and a lack of preciousness. So if be prepared to discard stuff if it's not working is really important as well, and working with speed just to try and get it out there. Almost imagine you're capturing a photograph in the moment with your lyrics. And she actually said all her lyrics, although happened quickly, had a high bar of meaning to them. And one of the worst sessions, she said, was when she said, I've ran out of ideas that have as much meaning as the other ones. And it was really depressing for her at that point. And of course, she got ideas later on, but they had that almost threshold of these lyrics have to mean something to me that much to go into the album. I think that's a way to judge it. You'll never be able to know how, it's a hard abstract thing, how much value do these lyrics have, but what does it mean to you? And if it means a lot, then that's a good thing. So that's how you could judge that. Another cool thing she said about the lyrics is it was almost a bit like texts to friends, messages. So she said, right now there's this alchemy where I've somehow been drawn into making a club record, which feels intrinsically who I am, because Charli XCX grew up in the club scene in London, which is kind of cool. But coupled with a new lyrical style. And then she said, it's very much like texts I would send to friends. I wasn't worried about rhyme or the traditional things. It's really just about capturing a feeling of chaos and saying the most blunt thing that is at the top of my brain. So almost switching off your filter, try not to be too poetic and just get it out there is a lyrical sort of technique, I guess. I'm not throwing shade to anyone that does do more thought out poetic lyrics, because that's important too. But some people are more direct with their lyrics, and that's fine as well. Or sometimes you need to swap your your technique just to see if something new comes out. So if you are on the more poetic settings, maybe swap it. Let's just try and write something straight up, direct, off the top of the dome. Sorry, that's cheesy, but straight off the top of your mind. That could be a good way of doing it as well. And the last tip from Charli XCX was using your voice as an instrument. So she really tried to push her voice to be like an otherworldly instrument. And she referenced Caroline Polachek, who does this a lot. And she said, especially in her, not so much in her lead vocal, but in her backing vocals to be like that. And it meant having to process it sometimes through auto-tune and other processing like pitch shifters, reverb, delay, and almost having that set up in a live vocal chain. So when you sing down it, you can hear back how it sounds like an instrument. And I thought that was like a really cool way of doing it, thinking of your voice as an instrument and not just telling the story, especially for backing vocals. So yeah, it's definitely something I'm going to be trying a little bit more myself. And that takes us to the end of the video podcast. Thanks so much for tuning in, everyone. Like I said, if you need help finishing your track, I've got my 10-day, 10-step challenge to finish that damn track. 30 minutes a day. 30 minutes a day, which is hopefully no more than what you're doing already on your music. You get an email every day. It's got a checklist, an action point, telling you exactly what you have to do. Boom, you'll have a self-mastered track by the end of it. And then the more you repeat that process, the better and better you're going to get at it. This finish that damn track framework. Try it for free below. Just put in your email. And if you end up not liking it, fair enough. It might not be for everyone. Just unsubscribe. No hard feelings. But I'm sure you'll enjoy it. And I'm here to help music producers and music makers like you get more joy, fulfillment, and fun out of making your music. And that does mean getting some of them out there, your best ones out there. So hopefully this is going to be a great resource. Now, it is free, but there's only 5 spots per week to join on the free challenge. So click below to make sure you get yours. And I hope you've enjoyed this podcast video today. I've enjoyed making it. It was a bit arduous to make this one with like the dogs barking and then setting up. And to be honest, I haven't recorded one in a little while, so I was a bit rusty myself. So yeah, thanks for tuning in. Hopefully you got something out of it. My name's Dave. This is Whiskey and Synths. I will catch you later. Whiskey.